Yo, what's up, Seabass? This is my response, I guess, to your first video. I do want to commend you, man. This is definitely a bold topic, pretty nuanced, awesome way to start the YouTube channel. I'm just gonna dive in, I guess. I can see why people are so cynical about political civility. It does seem like an impossible plight sometimes. There's an article, and any of the things I talk about, I will link below, that talks about some of the reasons why it doesn't seem to work. For one, political civility, as a definition, is not universal. People have different interpretations of it. For example, there was a speech Obama did, and when he did the speech, and I'll link that as well, someone shouted, "You lied." Some people say that was kind of horrendous, he shouldn't have said that, that wasn't really a rational thing to do, but others said it was completely within his right to do it. It wasn't violent, it didn't cross any boundaries, and not having that universal understanding of civility kind of makes it hard for people to apply it and make a common ground for everyone to be on the same rule set. Maybe democracy and political civility don't go well together. Political civility is about compromise, it's about finding common ground, and democracies, by some definitions, is about special interest groups trying to achieve and maintain power. Those two things kind of don't really go hand in hand, right? You can't try and achieve more power and also find common ground. It doesn't work like that. So how can we try to be politically civil in a democracy? It's homogenizing. It forces people to play by the same rule sets and be on the same grounds. And in a world that's becoming increasingly diverse, is that really what we're trying to strive for? A lot of political protests and some of the most notable in recent history have been done in supposedly uncivil ways. Think about your climate protests or your racial protests and things like that. Trying to impede on that by saying that's not how we play it does sort of negate that progress that we've made. More insidiously, some people just do not have the political and social capital to be able to engage in political civility. Think about 1960s America. Back then, African Americans were treated as second class citizens, and asking them to participate in democracy by being civil is a tall order just because back then they weren't probably thought of as irrational. So, what could they do? Not really much if we think of the only ideal being political civility. They had to go through alternative means, and in that case, it was completely justifiable because they had no other option. Yep, I had to change locations real quick, so I guess we're here now. Okay, so understanding those critiques about political civility that I've put out and that you've put out, it does paint a bit of a bleak picture. But I don't think that necessarily means that we should let go of the idea entirely. One article I read shows the negative consequences of being uncivil. For example, one hypothesis is that uncivility has led to a lack of civil approval and also a decline in trust for institutions. Also, uncivility could cause marginalization in the political process. It's quoted that quite a few politicians didn't run for Congress because of fear of personal, not political attacks. Uncivility, sorry, brings reckless hostility. Uncivility also leads to leaders that are unable to govern effectively. Uncivility breeds people that are unwilling to compromise, and in a democracy that is all about having multiple stakeholders to make decisions, not having a common ground for everyone to act makes a state that is unable to take action. In my view, political civility in its essence is understanding that a person isn't good or evil, moral or immoral, just dependent on their views, having a sort of common respect for them as a person. I think this virtue is super important in such contentious contemporary times when everyone is so quick to demonize the other side. A big pet peeve of mine as well is when people start criticizing a system without having a good alternative. While political civility has its flaws, I can't really see of any alternative. It's kind of like democracy. It is a flawed system, but every other system is a lot worse. In conclusion, while there are flaws with political civility, I do think it's important that we try and strive for it. I think that pursuit of a perfection that may not be attained is still valid. And I think we should all, as citizens of the state and of stakeholders of the state, try and be civil in our discourse. Thank you for listening.